housing tax credit, what is that?
Sure, well, we applied for the tax credit, and in our application, they asked for a letter, just because we think you're supportive or you know that we're turning in. A lot of times, people get additional funding that could allow them to get a tax payment. We're not applying for anything like that. We're not going to not pay our taxes.
Okay, let me see. Does anybody else have any questions for Holly or Ernie?
I move we approve this.
Have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Holly. We passed it.
Okay,
You
thank
get
you
together
very
with
much.
Ernie or Kevin or something like that. They'll explain it.
Oh, so look forward to seeing you at the ribbon cutting ceremony on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. It's been a positive day for you.
Well, thank you. If you don't mind, I'm gonna have to go. I have another meeting.
Yeah, go ahead. That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to number 5, items for discussion, possible action, holding of the Ely City Council. Just a consent agenda, number 1, decision and possible action for the minutes, and discussion, possible action to pay bills. Any questions on this?
State and local fire department, you have to approve all the others with that.
Okay.
No problems. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
One quick question on the warrants. What is that ADPI intermittents?
That's our billing service for the EMS funds.
Okay, EMS billings?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Second with that?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Paid in bill. Okay, B, new business. Number 1, Mayor Hickman, discussion possible action, consideration of application to fill member Congress seat on the Ely City Council meeting. Brad, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Finance, what is it?
You need me to talk?
I think you're the only applicant. No, I don't know the applicant. Just introduce yourself and tell them who you are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Brad Simpson. My wife and I have a real estate office in Ely, Nevada. It's on property here. I was approached about this and was very interested because I have a 30-year career in law enforcement. And I know how urban and city planning can impact crime rates and reduce crime rates, and also improve the quality of living for the community. So I would really like to be considered for the position. And I sat through the meeting today, which was a very interesting proposition. So if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I am interested in working with the planning commission.
Thank you, Brad. If there are no questions for him,
I make a motion to accept it.
Second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't know if you have to swear him in or not. What do you do?
Turn away off sometime in interest, I'll swear you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. Number 2, Mayor Hickman, Bill Wolf, discussion possible action, approval of proclamation declaring May 8, 2013 Arbor Day in the city of Ely.
Yes.
Hey, what's happening?
Well, not much. We're getting ready for Arbor Day because you guys will declare it for crying out
You
loud.
got big trees?
We've got a bunch of trees. We've got, most of the trees we've got this year left over from are the ones that folks donated from the festival trees. So we've got 2 trees we'll plant up at the high school, 2 trees out at the golf course, one of them courtesy of Mr. Durbridge. We've also working with David E. Norman, and we may have a tree down there to plant as part of Arbor Day, and then also 2 trees up at Bianchi Park that are going to be transplanted so that they're not just cut down and thrown away. And so, yeah, we've got some nice stuff planned for Arbor Day this year.
Okay, now, you know I don't know how to use a shovel, but if you call me down there, I'll hold one.
Well, that's all right. We need some bulls, so there you go, man. Come on down.
Just let me know.
There we go.
Do we have a motion on this?
I make a motion, we approve proclamation declaration of May 8th as Arbor Day.
Second.
If you second, did you want that
I want to
motion?
ask Bill if he's going to get any free hats this year.
Free hats?
Yeah, free hats.
For crying out loud. I'll bring a handkerchief. We can call that a hat. How about that?
Pass them out, okay?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Bill. We'll see you down there. Let me
You bet. And just one little update thing too. I wasn't sure if everybody was aware of that. The tree board did get 2 grants to help with planting trees for when you guys go to do the park right behind here, the playground. We got $500 from the Nevada Shade Tree Council, And then also the other $500 was for that shade tree week. And we've got some trees that are sitting out at the golf course, sitting in the ground waiting to be put in the ground out here. They're in pots and ready to be transplanted. And then as soon as we have a date when you guys are ready to start doing that, then we'll order up the rest of the trees to have them delivered.
We'll let you know. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Number 3, council members, City Water Sewer Supervisor Jenkins, discussion possible action, consideration to award to individual bidders, bidders, all or each individual bid items for the 2013 Gilly Road material bid for the Water Sewer Department. I believe we have a little.
Yeah, we compiled a bid list, 4 suppliers basically picked up specifications from us. We did receive 4 responses back, one of them declining to bid at this time, and then the other 3 have been compiled here, and based on what was happening, I would recommend it. I can't answer for the budget wise, I don't know what's been budgeted for this, and so I guess make sure that you guys have a budget, but based on the numbers, I have no concerns about the number. I'm comfortable with the cost per ton and such. The one looks a little out of whack when compared to the other things, but when you actually analyze that number, it comes down to, based on, say, if you did a 3-inch cold patch, it comes down to about $1.73 square foot for a cold patch. So, I'm comfortable with where the numbers are, if everything looks good. The monies are available, and I would recommend that is to Rec Brothers.
Well, Rec Brothers seems to be the cheapest.
Yeah, they're cheapest on all items. I mean, the specification, the bid was set up that you could select individual items if maybe contractor number 1 was cheaper than contractor number 2 when it comes to tax rate. So in this circumstance, Rec Brothers was a little bigger on all 4 items.
Move to accept Rec Brothers bid.
Any other discussion?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, number 3, Councilman Ramos, City Water Authority. Okay. Number 4, Councilman Wetland, Gang Choir, Ely City Council, Corral Association, President, Special Possible Action, approval of the revisions to the Ely City Corral Owners Application Association bylaws, or direction of the city attorney to create an agreement between the city of Ely and Ely City Corral Association to address issues regarding the public use of area. Before you get started, Jan, I just want to say that there's a rumor going around that the city councilman up here wants to close the corrals. I know of no city councilman that wants to do that. It is a rumor. I know of no, I talked to him beforehand. I don't know how these things get started, but it's not true. It's not.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's why you're here tonight, so we can work these things out.
Before we get too far into this, let me express why I put an "or" in there. Because originally the request was made to just have approval of revisions to the Ely City Corral Owners Association bylaws. The city is not a member of the Ely City Corral Association, even though we do give some authority for them to enforce their rules, and anybody down there.
Not their rules, the rules of the lease that was set up by.
Right, but part of that in the lease indicates that the corral owners, the lessees, have to follow the bylaws of the association. But because we're not a party to those bylaws, I have a difficult time approving those unless it's just an enforcement issue, because we do have some connection there. So my recommendation would be, instead of approving the bylaws, that we work out the details as far as how you want that relationship to be with regards to the public areas, because that was the big change in the bylaws.
And that's what was outlined.
And just have a separate agreement between the city and the Corral Association as to how those items are going to be addressed. But rather than doing that in the bylaws, well, and you guys can do it in the bylaws, but that's up to you.
We're in conjunction with the lease agreement. It is a hand-in-hand partnership. For years, the Ely City Corrals has offered our services for years as
Right, but-
volunteers.
But this goes beyond leasing a corral down there.
We're talking
These-
about
these
the public,
rules.
yeah, the
And so
public.
that's why I think
I-
it should be a separate agreement,
Can I
not
can I speak
the
for just a
city's
minute?
input on the bylaws.
Well, let me explain what the purpose of listing in the revised. Each of the council members got a revised, which is in Article 8, Section 4, public use areas. It has never, in the history of the Corrals or the association of the Ely City Corral Association with the city, it has never been outlined on the responsibilities of either entity. I take that back. The city outlined it in the lease what the Ely City Corral's responsibility was to the city of Ely. And so we have been providing that since the beginning of the Corrals, throughout the years. But there's never been a list of things that gave a lessee any idea of what the responsibilities were as concerning the public areas that it states right here. Ely City Corral Association cannot stop anyone from using public areas. We can't tell somebody not to change their oil on top of the stockpile, the manure stockpile. Yeah, I can be a concerned citizen and tell them quit polluting, because this happens on occasion. It's
That's against
crazy.
the law, you need to call the police. when
Well,
it happens.
quite often the police get called. If you have a scanner, you know that. So, and you know, that's a service that we provide the city to. We're protecting our leased lots and making sure that it's a safe, happy environment for everyone who leases a corral down there. And we've happily done that for, I don't know, I'm guessing and estimating probably close to 40 years, 45 years, and happily doing it. But now we feel as a corral association that these expectations should be listed of what the city should be responsible for. As lessees, we can't come up with a grader. We can't come up with the equipment that is needed to take care of the public areas. So that falls back on the city. The city's got to take care of their public areas. And this is all this is. It's an outline so that people can look at it and go, oh, okay, that's responsible. And I feel that the city should be responsible in taking care of their public areas. And the Ely City Corral area is part of, it's got quite a bit of public area that the Ely City Corral Association can help with. But we can't maintain it all by ourselves. We don't have the equipment. We just don't. And for safety purposes, the roads need to be maintained fairly well. We now have our garbage disposal company comes down. We have a lessee that is improving their corral, and now that big truck is coming down. And if anybody gets hurt, we might need an ambulance. We have Mount Wheeler Power that comes down and reads all the meters. So the roads are more than just people driving in there, taking care of their corrals, and driving home. And we're incorporated into the city. So I don't know, do any of the council members think that what was outlined out of control, insulting, or?
I think you misunderstand my point, Jan. I don't disagree with having some agreement that deals with these issues.
Right.
But the city is not a party to your bylaws, and so to put City of Ely
So-
responsibilities in your bylaws,
So you
that's
need to put it in the
unenforceable.
lease?
I'm
so that the
saying we
lessees-
should have a separate agreement between the city and the Corral Association that identifies these things. It would be a separate agreement, it wouldn't be your bylaws.
It would be in the lease though, so that the lessees know, have an outline of what the responsibilities of the city has in their public areas. Because this has been quite a controversy for as long as the Corrals have been there. And it had gone back, way back into city council minutes. And it's always been a question mark on who's responsible for what. So it needs to be either outlined, because this is just a, it's just a mock-up. It's a revised for you to look at and get some ideas from. But is it going to go in the Ely City Corral Association bylaws, or does it belong in the lease agreement? So that each lessee knows, they know they're supposed to take care of their corrals, keep their manure removed, the garbage picked up, their buildings in good condition. They're not supposed to store cars or extra trailers or trucks or anything down there. They got that straight. What they don't have straight, and it seems to be a constant irritation, is why isn't the city doing anything? Oh, well, what is anything? What are they responsible for? This is what this is about. Our lease is lacking information. So,
If I might interject something
okay,
here.
please.
Jan, I'm very happy to work with you on this, and I understand what you're saying. I agree with Kevin.
I do too.
Okay.
I do too.
And I think what you put here is a revision to your bylaws. I think you're presenting that as just trying to make a suggestion to the
Yeah.
city and delineate what the city's responsibilities would be. And I'd point out that to some measure, we've already agreed to a lot of these things.
Yes.
At a very recent meeting, we agreed to the signage of the safety rules.
Which
Dean
hasn't
Day,
happened.
Dean Day laid out a good, viable plan to deal with drainage down there.
Yes.
Rick has agreed to road maintenance down there when needed.
Yep.
The manure stockpile removal, I think that's something that the city should take care of. I really believe that, and weed control also. So to me, what we're doing here today would be seeing if we can agree on what the city's responsibilities should be. And I'm curious as to how this started, because it does clearly say in the current lease, the Corral Association enforce the rules, and that the lessee agrees to obey the most current bylaws. Well, obviously, the city would have to approve those. The city couldn't.
That's it, the city would approve
Right.
their rules as far as dealing with the lessees, but the city is not a member and is not subject to those bylaws themselves. That's the only issue that I have. It would be smarter, it would be better to either put it in the lease agreement, so that the agreement is between each individual lessee, or to have a separate agreement between the city and the Corral Association as to what the city's responsibilities are going to be.
So what would you recommend, Kevin? You understand the situation, a separate agreement between the Corral Owners Association and the city?
Oh, I don't know that it matters if you want to do it as part of the lease agreement.
Either
make an
way.
amendment there. I just don't think the bylaws are the appropriate place to specify those, because there again, the city is not a member of their association, is
And
not
I-
subject to their bylaws.
And I agree completely with that. Let me ask the rest of the council. Now, before I even say anything, looking at Jan's list here, safety rules, signage, proper drainage, manure stockpile removal, weed control, road maintenance. I personally feel that the city should be responsible for those things, treating it a lot like a park. I do not know how the city could accept the last one there, the maintenance of the creek, I'm sure Flood control.
Well,
That would be-
they might ask for some help from the mine.
Well, at this point, I couldn't support that. I'd have to do a lot more study on that before I
And
could
these
say
are
that
just,
we
like
could.
I said, this is just a revised outline. those are concerns that all lessees have, because our creek is becoming more shallow because of the water that comes down from the mine, brings the material down, gets stuck there at the Old Dog Pound area, and without it being dredged out, it could mean flood at some point in time. So it could be maybe the person who is leasing Georgetown Road right behind the corrals, and maybe that person who is leasing that, they do manage that, the fences and the entry to that property. They're responsible for taking care of that property. Maybe they'd be willing to dredge it, I don't know. And these are all just ideas I'm throwing around, so.
Well, could we reach an agreement today that the city could be responsible for those first items, eliminating the maintenance of the creek?
Just got a question about the manure stockpile, would you say you agree with it? Just something to think about, like if I'm cleaning my yard or something and I got trash, I don't go to a pile and have the city come pick it up, I take it all the way to the dump myself. Why would you allow people, just a minute, to clean corrals, stockpile manure, and then have to have the city pick it up? Just a question, I mean, I don't understand, to me, I would fall in the same ballpark.
May I answer that,
May I
please?
say something? When people let others finish their sentence, it is so hard to do that. Okay? Thank you.
If I could interject, it doesn't state in the lease agreement anything about where they want the lessees to put the manure. It has been done this way for 45 years plus. We keep our corrals clean. The majority of, in fact, all do, because I'm looking at them. So sometimes we have to fight to get them to do it, but they'll do it. A lot of us, and myself included, I clean my corrals twice a day, and I push it over to the designated area because last year, Rick said that he had one place and he wanted it to be stockpiled, and so we obeyed that. And twice a day, I take my manure over there. My corrals are always clean. That's mine. Some people only clean once a year. Some people clean twice a year. Some people clean once a week. But the corrals are being kept, and they're doing what they're supposed to do in their agreement to the lease to the city. It's up to the city to decide if they want to stop allowing us to stockpile at the designated area. Now, my feeling is that the lease, we pay our leases. If we got this stockpile cleaned up that we have going on now, it's been 3 years, by the way, since we cleaned it up, and the mine took it. The mine doesn't need it anymore. They haven't even used what we gave them last year. So they're not taking any more for reclamation. I don't know why the city can't use it for reclamation. It's perfect, it's cheap manure, it's cheap fertilizer. But that's another whole subject. Once we get this cleaned up, I don't know why it should be an issue. It should take only probably, I would think, maybe 2 hours if they clean it up 3 times a year. It's not that labor intense. It is now because it's been allowed to stockpile for too long.
Yeah, may I address Robert's question real quickly, because that's a good question. I think the key to that, Robert, is that these people are paying to lease these corrals from the city. And I don't think this would be a lot different from what we just agreed to try with Ernie Steinberg, collecting and encouraging people in that way to keep their corrals in a safe condition and on a periodic basis, packing it all, because they are paying.
It sounds like the corrals are paid the stockpile. We're talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of issue. What was the thing we were talking about, the creek?
That's one of the issues.
That's one of the issues.
I'm just saying that on this list, I do not know how the city could take on that type of an obligation, because until we do a lot more study of that, I certainly don't know what would be involved there to maintain the creek to ensure flood control.
The stockpile is getting to be pretty good now in the manure.
Yes.
If I've been out there before.
Yes, it
In
is.
fact, I thought it was part of the hill.
May I interject?
Jim, yes, and if you want Bruce
I do,
to speak
I
to
do.
me, I have no
I
problem.
do.
I just been waiting for it to
I
happen.
do, but I need to interject. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, we have had outside dumping. We have had people cleaning from somewhere else. I can't figure out where all this manure is coming from. I'm looking at my Corral lessees, I'm looking at what looks like it's been freshly cleaned up, and there's nothing. But we have piles of manure and dirt and grass coming in and being dumped. And somebody graciously, and I think whoever they are, pushed it up with a loader. I don't think it was our city. It must have been a private individual. Whoever was bringing in dumping probably pushed it up. But that still adds to our stockpile so bad.
Well, they shouldn't be doing it.
So I'd like to turn the time over to
go ahead.
Bruce.
In the past, the mine took all the manure and they used it for reclamation up there. So what's gotten in people's minds, instead of going to dump, they dump it in our pile because they think they're doing good by giving it to us so that it's being used at the mine. That's why we're getting so much from outside sources. And they got in their head that, well, grass clippings is good too. So now they're dumping grass clippings on there thinking that it's a green thing to do and it's helping the environment. That's why we're getting outside people dumping. Maybe a sign could go up, you know. Dumping.
There are already signs there, there was.
No, well, there's a sign that tells us where to dump.
There's
See,
no
that's
sign.
been,
There's not even a sign to tell you
oh,
where
it's
to
not
go.
there anymore? Well, there used to be.
Never there.
Rick
Right.
put one up, didn't you?
Well, it's gone. I don't know what happened to it. Rick,
I know that
apologize.
last year Rick put up a sign saying dump here, or between two signs or something. I know he did that.
No dumping for the rest of it, which they went in there and dumped anyhow, so now we got people there.
Right, but the point was, there was a sign that says dump here. Maybe we need to put a sign that says, you know, no dumping, or unless you're a Corral Association member.
Or a lessee.
Or a lessee, or maybe it's, I don't know how you stop people. No outside dumping or something.
But that's still a
To answer
public
Mr.
area.
Slawic's question, the city has always done this, they just never had a problem with us stockpiling there. As a matter of fact, they directed us where to put it. But it was never a problem because the mine always took it.
Not always.
Well, now it's a problem because the mine isn't taking it, and the city's having to accept the responsibility, or re-accept the responsibility. One thing I would like to say, Mr. Barrett, is I did hear the rumor, but I didn't hear it of any councilman being against the association. I heard it that it was a city employee. And what that was is, I don't want to mention any names, but there is a city employee that
I
is.
didn't mention any names either.
No.
Right. There is a city employee that is against the corrals and has told me and, well, has told a lot of us that if he had his way, he'd get rid of it. That it pollutes the,
There could be a lot of city employees that might think of it, that means nothing to this.
okay, city supervisor, somebody that's,
This council makes
Yeah.
decisions.
right, but this person has a lot of influence on the council.
One of them makes a decision too. It's not a city employee.
This city employee has a lot of influence. I'm not trying to start anything, am I lying?
No,
That's
no,
fine.
but that's not, that's irrelevant
That's
to
irrelevant.
what we're doing. I think it still falls back into that we need to make our public areas more responsible, safer for the public. If it means some instructional signs, then it means that the city needs to provide some instructional signs. I wasn't privy to Rick's sign, I never saw it, and I apologize for that. Somebody must have took it out of there before I could even see it.
I saw it, he did do it. He
Okay,
put it up.
yeah, well, I'm not saying he didn't do it, I'm just saying I would have liked to have read it.
City,
Yeah, I read it.
There was no.
So, and we have obeyed everything that I thought that he wanted. So,
But now we have an issue. And that's for another council meeting because it's
Well, we
not
keep
on the
pushing
agenda
it down the
today.
line, let's try to get something done.
I guess she's asking for one of the councilmen to make a motion to accept those items that Mr. Westland had talked about, so that we can get on with city
Well,
business.
so that when we do decide whether or not it's gonna be a separate agreement or it's gonna be a part, I think it should be a part of the lease myself, so that each new lessee has a clear understanding of the service that our city provides in their public areas when it pertains to the corrals. That's all I'm saying. Does anyone else wanna?
I have a thought.
Yeah.
That, you have this under, what was it called, your bylaws?
Yes.
And could you say reference city lease and whatever you agree to on that city lease or the Corral Association agreement? And just call it a reference to that other agreement?
I think
in
if
its
we put it
bylaws.
in the lease agreement, it doesn't even have to be addressed in the bylaws, because every lessee is subject to
But I
it.
think they want, when somebody gets the bylaws, to remind them of that is in there. So if they just say reference to city corral lease or
The only
city
issue is
corral.
having city responsibilities in a private entity's
Yeah.
bylaws. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, because the city's not subject to those bylaws.
Right, right.
We're still
It would be
city
better to
corrals.
have it be part of the lease or a separate agreement. Either way, whichever way you guys decide.
And the lease is perfect. And the lease is perfect. It's education. It educates people so that they don't feel stressed over this or that, because that has been a huge issue. And this clears it. This clears it up. And it also gives city council members and the mayor something to go by when I come before you and say, we need to address this issue. So,
Well, certainly, I hope this is right, Kevin, this could be put in the lease. And certainly the bylaws of the association could quote the lease, could reference the lease.
yeah, if each,
Yes,
if the lessee.
you could have something in there as indicated in the lease agreement between the city of Ely and the lessees. I mean, the city has agreed to do such and such and such, I guess.
There'd be nothing wrong with an association that would refer its members to the lease language.
So, how do we proceed from here? John?
Getting back to that, manure stockpile removal, I'd like to hear from Rick. How would you handle that at the landfill?
Rick, come to that.
On the manure stockpile, it is so big there right now that I cannot take all of that into landfill at one shot. With the moisture and all that manure there, the nitrates that's gonna come out of it and go right straight down to our Monarchin wells that are real shallow in that area. It's gonna drive our nitrate right through the ceiling, and we're gonna be in violation of our permits at the landfill. And that, I would have to try to take them, clear out the Lackawanna into the old the beds out there and try to lay it in there. But this hasn't arisen to be a problem with the manure until about the last 3 years. Because before that, you see how all that area is built out is because the manure was always pushed up and then dirt was capped over it. They're out so far now that we can't go any further because there's a main sewer lid there for cleaning out the lines just going into the sewer plant. So we had to stop them from dumping and building that out any further, or it would have buried the sewer there. And that 3 years ago, they had the mine come in and haul it out. We loaded it. It took us about a month and a half of working on the weekends to get it all picked up and hauled out. We went in there, bladed everything, cleaned everything up, and told them, do not dump to the north side because it's straight downhill. All the nitrates out of that would run right straight down into the creek, which would put us in violations on the nitrates in Murray Creek. On the south side of it, where they were supposed to put it, it's in a bowl, so it would hold the moisture there. It would not let that pure nitrate run down to the creek there. But as soon as we cleaned it up, we posted it, And it was only a matter of weeks before they started dumping. And there's a bigger pile on the north side now than there is on the south side. So they dumped in an area that was supposed to be no dumping. They ignored the signs, put the manure back there again. There was signs there. I posted them all through there.
One time. Now, may I interject for a second, just for a second? Now, if you posted them, and if you were monitoring, or if me and you could get along, that would be really good. I would come and tell you, Rick, the sign is gone. And then you would say, okay, I'm gonna post it again, and then I would have put it in the Ely City Corral Association newsletter. Leave the signs alone. I'm apologizing again. I never saw those signs. I never saw
The
those.
signs were put up when Dave Conger was with the corral boss.
Now, is that the Forest Service signs?
That
That are
said no
along
dumping,
there?
yes, said no dumping.
It's this
And then-
big,
But there
and
was
they're from the
space,
Forest Service.
and they were spaced evenly all the way through there. So you could
Nobody
not
has
miss them.
dumped in the center.
Maybe we can find a ranch or somebody that would want it, and we could dump it there, you know, and maybe we could advertise free manure.
That's a good
But-
idea.
You know, instead of the city dumping it to the landfill, take it to a rancher that wants it.
Huh?
That'd be
No, I don't need
a
it.
Well, no, if they're gonna pick it up and take it to the landfill, maybe instead of taking it
How
to the
much, how
landfill.
much do you think you can move right now?
I'll bet you, with our spare time, I'm down a man, like I said, for 3 months at the landfill. So I'm down to 2 men on top to take care of building, finish building our pond, maintaining the roads up there and taking care of the garbage. So I'm short-handed. So to try to squeeze it in, still be able to maintain the garbage, I estimate it'll take us about 2 months worth of time in our spare time to haul it all the way down to the Lackawanna Mill and dispose of it down there. And that's 2 months of time that I take away building my ponds, taking care of any of the other stuff that puts me behind again. And this, I'm not against so much on the horse corral, but I need to get it through everybody's mind that we are very busy at the landfill. We have a lot on our plate out there that we're trying to do to keep that landfill open and moving ahead for when our permits come through. And if I keep getting pulled off on other projects, then I fall way behind on it. And then my only out on that is gonna be hire a contractor to come in and put the ponds in for us because we don't have the time. Spend the taxpayers' money to do that where we could be trying to do it, or just go away with the permits and shut the landfill down prematurely and let the county build one for $23 million and let everybody pay for it.
Can we wait and move the manure pile in the fall? I mean, it doesn't have to be done today.
No, we're not.
Okay,
But
let me try to make sense.
But, okay, Mayor, but on my part of this and that, some of the concerns I have is the arena. We're taking care of weeds at the arena. And that, I don't have time to put men inside that arena pulling weeds and taking care of it like that.
That's probably
I mean,
not gonna
it's-
happen, Jim.
It's not clarified well enough to exactly know exactly what they're wanting. When it came to the road, we went and bladed the road last year. We had it set up with Janelle Matthews to take a loader clear out to the 50 club to get the dirt to haul back in to cap the roads and raise the roads up. Had a man come in at 5 o'clock that morning on overtime. We sat there until 9:30 before we got a call from JDL saying, oh, my truck broke down, we're not gonna make it today.
Okay.
And we'll reschedule it. It's never been rescheduled. As far as the drainage problem at the corrals, Dean Day and one of my employees went in and shot in that it would drain. And when we were all standing up there meeting, Marty said he volunteered to take his mini X in there and he would work with Jan and he'd get the drainage ditch put in. That